In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to create a function in JavaScript. As soon as a web page begins loading, the JavaScript engine in the browser analyzes the HTML markup and builds a tree-like structure of the elements. This is known as the Document Object Model, or DOM. The role of a function is to manipulate the DOM in some way. It might be to perform a calculation based on user input and display the result, or it might send a request to a web server for more information and update the page content without the need to reload. The function I'm going to build will change the size of the font in this unordered list. JavaScript functions either need to be in an external file or in a script block. The script block can be pretty well anywhere in the page, but the normal place to put it is in the head of the document. So I'm going to create a script block just before the closing head tag. Now, in the past, it was necessary to state what type of language you were using with the type attribute, but this is no longer necessary in HTML5. Script on its own is sufficient. Add a couple of lines and create a closing script block. One of the things to notice about Dreamweaver's code completion, for technical reasons, just typing the open angle bracket and / won't automatically close a script block. You need to type it yourself. So now we have a script block. I need to declare the function, and you declare a function with the keyword, guess what, function. You'll see that Dreamweaver has immediately inserted a red bar in the column numbers, and there's a notice at the top saying there's a syntax error on line 7. JavaScript syntax checking in Dreamweaver is very rigid, and because just function on its own is a syntax error, it'll tell me that there's a problem. But once I finish typing the line, it should be okay. After the function keyword, I need a space and then the name of the function. You can give functions almost any name you like, but it must begin with a letter, underscore, or the $sign. Also, the name mustn't contain any spaces or hyphens. And another thing, JavaScript is case sensitive, so it's common to give functions descriptive names using an uppercase letter for the second and subsequent words. So what I'm going to call mine is change font size. You see, I'm using 3 words, but they're all scrunched up together. But to make it easier to read, I've used a capital F and a capital S for my change font size. After the name comes a pair of parentheses, and then an opening curly brace, and the function ends with a closing curly brace, which I'm going to put on that line there. And you can see that I now have no syntax errors, so Dreamweaver's happy with me. The function is going to change the font size of this unordered list, so I need to be able to get a reference to it, and the way in which I can do so is through its ID. I'm going to be referring to this list several times inside the function, so I want to store a reference to it in a variable, and to create a variable you use the keyword var, and then a name, and I'm going to call it simply list. And to assign the value to the variable, an equal sign, and then document followed by a period, and you see that Dreamweaver has now brought up code hints. These are code hints for built-in methods of the JavaScript language, and the method which will get a reference to something which is identified by an ID is called getElementById. Just typing G takes me straight to that code hint, so I can just press enter to enter it. And then Dreamweaver tells me that what is expected is an ID. Well, the ID of the list is fruits, and it needs to be in quotes. Single or double doesn't matter. I'm going to use single, and as soon as I've done that, Dreamweaver has analyzed the page and tells me, oh, you've got an ID called fruits. That's the one I want, so I can just press enter and it goes in there, and close the parenthesis and finish the line with a semicolon. The semicolon tells the JavaScript engine that that's the end of this particular command, And something which is very important about commands in JavaScript is that they must be on the same line. You cannot break the line in a JavaScript command, because if you miss out semicolons, JavaScript automatically assumes that the end of a line is the end of a command. So it's a very common mistake for beginners to put new lines in the middle of commands and then wonder why their JavaScript doesn't work. It's because a command must be on a single line. Now that I've got my reference to the list stored as the variable list, I can then type list and a period, and that brings up more code hints. What I want to do is to change the style, so I go for the style, STY, there we are, for the style property of the list, and then type another period, and it brings up a list of all the various styles which are available, and the one I want is font size. You can see that it's the same as the CSS property, but because hyphens are not allowed in the middle of JavaScript names, they use the same camel case of an uppercase letter for the second word. So font size is written like that. And the font size I'm going to make 20 pixels. And again, 20 pixels must be in quotes. And there we are. That is a function. Now, at the moment, it doesn't do anything. It needs an event to trigger it. But that's another story.